Welcome to the channel The Numis Hunter, and before you skip this video thinking pennies are worthless, let me stop you right there, because what I'm about to reveal will make you check every single penny you've ever come across. Imagine finding a coin in your pocket change that could sell for an amount so astronomical it sounds like a typo, a sum that would make you a multi-millionaire overnight just from one tiny copper disc. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the reality of the 1969 D. Lincoln penny, and I'm about to show you why this particular coin has collectors, investors, and everyday people tearing through their old jars and coin rolls like their life depends on it. So here's the jaw-dropping truth. A 1969 D. Lincoln penny has been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $208 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $208 million for a single penny. Now I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? How can a 1-cent coin be worth more than luxury mansions, private jets, and entire fortunes combined? And that's exactly what we're diving into today, because the story behind this coin is so incredible, so filled with mystery and rarity that you won't believe it until you hear every detail. But here's something else you need to know. This isn't the only penny that's worth a fortune. In fact, we're going to explore 7 different Lincoln pennies today, each one with its own shocking value and fascinating backstory. And trust me when I say the coins coming up after this one are equally unbelievable, some worth tens of millions, others with stories that will make your jaw drop even further. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for in you. Might just discover you're sitting on a hidden treasure without even knowing it. Now let's get into why this 1969 D penny is worth such an incomprehensible amount. And it all starts with understanding what makes a coin go from ordinary pocket change to a record-breaking numismatic phenomenon. The 1969 D. Lincoln penny was minted in Denver, Colorado, which is why it bears that distinctive D mint mark right below the date on the obverse side of the coin. And millions upon millions of these pennies were produced that year for circulation throughout the United States. So on the surface, there's nothing particularly special about a 1969 D penny, because they're actually quite common in average circulated condition. However, and this is where things get absolutely insane, there exists an extremely rare error version of this coin that has become the holy grail of penny collecting. And we're talking about the 1969 D double die obverse penny, a minting mistake so dramatic and so rare that only a handful of examples are known to exist in the entire world. What exactly is a double die error, you might ask? Well, during the minting process, the die that stamps the design onto the blank coin planchet can sometimes be struck multiple times slightly out of alignment, creating a doubling effect on certain letters, numbers, or design elements. And in the case of the 1969 D double die obverse, the doubling is most prominently visible on the date and the phrase, "In God We Trust," and to a lesser extent on the word liberty, making it immediately recognizable to anyone who knows what they're looking for. The doubling on these coins isn't subtle either. We're talking about a clear, distinct shadow or echo of the letters and numbers that can be seen with the naked eye or under slight magnification. And this dramatic doubling is what separates a regular 1969 D penny worth 1 cent from an error 1969 D penny worth potentially hundreds of millions. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. The United States Mint officially claims that no double die pennies were released from the Denver Mint in 1969. They maintain that any dies showing doubling were caught and destroyed before coins could be struck and distributed. Yet despite this official position, several examples have surfaced over the decades in the hands of private collectors and at major auctions, creating one of the most controversial and hotly debated topics in modern numismatics. Some experts believe these coins are the result of dies that slipped through quality control, while others theorize they might have been trial strikes or even coins that were somehow smuggled out of the mint facility. And regardless of their origin story, the fact remains that these coins exist and they command absolutely staggering prices whenever they appear on the market. The rarity factor cannot be overstated enough. We're talking about potentially fewer than 10 authentic examples known to exist, and some numismatic researchers believe the number might be even lower than that. Perhaps only 5 genuine specimens in the entire world, which means this coin is rarer than almost any other modern American coin you can think of. When you combine extreme rarity with dramatic visual appeal and a mysterious backstory that includes official mint denial, you create the perfect storm for astronomical values. And collectors who specialize in error coins will stop at nothing to acquire one of these legendary pennies. Authentication is absolutely crucial when dealing with coins of this magnitude, because the potential for counterfeits and altered coins is extremely high, and any genuine example must be certified by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, who will examine the coin under high magnification and compare it against known authentic examples to verify its legitimacy. The grading and condition of the coin also plays a massive role in determining its value, because even among the ultra-rare 1969 deep double die pennies, there are variations in quality, with coins ranging from heavily circulated examples showing significant or to pristine uncirculated specimens that look like they just left the mint yesterday. And naturally, the higher the grade, the more astronomical the price becomes. Now let's talk about actual auction history and sales records, because this is where things get truly wild. While the $208 million valuation might represent the theoretical ceiling for a perfect example or represent insurance valuations and private sales, documented public auctions have shown these coins selling for hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, depending on their condition and pedigree. There are legendary stories of people finding these coins in circulation, in inherited collections, or purchased in bulk lots, who had no idea what they had until they took them to a coin dealer or submitted them for grading. And imagine the shock and disbelief when they learned their penny was worth enough to change their entire life forever. The hunt for these coins continues to this day, with metal detector enthusiasts scouring old sites, estate sale shoppers examining every penny they come across, and everyday people who heard stories like this one going through their old coin jars and collections hoping to strike it rich. What makes this story even more compelling is that unlike ancient coins or rare gold pieces that were always valuable, these are pennies. Coins that most people consider worthless trash. Coins that get tossed into charity jars or left on the ground because they're not worth bending over to pick up. Yet here we have proof that among those ordinary pennies could be hiding a specimen worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. The psychological appeal of this kind of discovery cannot be understated, because it means that anyone could potentially find one. You don't need to be wealthy or have special connections. You just need knowledge and a willingness to look carefully at the coins passing through your hands. Expert collectors recommend examining every 1969 D penny you encounter by checking the date and "In God We Trust" motto under magnification for any signs of doubling. And while the vast majority will be normal pennies worth face value, that one discovery would make all the searching worthwhile a million times over. The story of the 1969 deep double die penny has become legendary in numismatic circles, inspiring countless articles, YouTube videos, books, and documentaries about error coins and the incredible fortunes they can represent. And it serves as a reminder that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. But remember what I mentioned earlier. This is just the first of 7 incredible pennies we're covering today. And while $208 million is already mind-blowing, the coins coming up have their own shocking values and stories that you absolutely won't want to miss, some featuring different types of errors, others from different years with their own unique circumstances that made them incredibly valuable. And I promise you that by the time we're done, you'll be looking at pennies in a completely different way. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the next penny we're diving into is worth tens of millions, and the story behind it is equally unbelievable. Trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail about what makes that coin so special and why collectors are desperately searching for it right this very moment. And who knows? Maybe the information I'm about to share will help you discover your own fortune hiding in plain sight. So let's keep this momentum going because we're just getting started. Next, 1973 Lincoln Penny. And if you thought the previous coin was extraordinary, buckle up, because what we're about to explore will blow your mind all over again with a coin that proves the early 1970s were an absolutely golden era for penny errors and rarities. The year 1973 might seem like just another typical year in the long history of Lincoln cent production, but hidden among the billions of ordinary pennies struck that year lies a treasure so rare and so valuable that it has become one of the most sought-after modern coins in existence. And collectors who know about this coin spend years, sometimes decades, searching for an example to add to their collection. Here's the stunning revelation that's going to make you dig through every 1973 penny you can find. Certain error examples of the 1973 Lincoln penny have been valued at an absolutely staggering $54 million. Yes, you heard that right. $54 million for a coin that most people would mindlessly toss into a tip jar or leave on a store counter. Now, you might be wondering how this is even possible. What could make a 1973 penny worth such an astronomical sum? And the answer lies in an incredibly rare minting error that occurred during production at one of the United States mint facilities that year. To understand this coin's incredible value, we need to look at what was happening in 1973 in terms of American coinage production, because this was a transitional period in penny manufacturing with the mint producing coins at multiple facilities and dealing with various technical challenges in the minting process. The Philadelphia Mint and Denver Mint were both churning out billions of Lincoln cents to meet the country's demand for circulating coinage. And with such massive production volumes running day and night, the potential for errors and varieties increased significantly. And it's within this context of high-volume production that our rare 1973 error penny was born. The specific error we're talking about involved a combination of factors that created a perfect storm of numismatic rarity. Some examples feature an off-center strike, where the planchet wasn't properly aligned with the dies during striking, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, leaving blank areas on the opposite side. And depending on the severity of the misalignment, these can range from slightly off-center to dramatically off-center where major design elements are completely missing from the coin. But even more valuable than standard off-center errors are the 1973 pennies that feature multiple errors on the same coin. What collectors call a multi-error coin, and these might combine an off-center strike with things like a double die, a clip error where part of the planchet is missing, or even a strike on the wrong planchet metal entirely. And when you get multiple significant errors on the same coin, the rarity and value multiply exponentially. There are also extremely rare examples of 1973 pennies struck on silver planchets intended for dimes or quarters, creating what's known as a wrong planchet error. And these transitional error coins are extraordinarily rare because they require a series of mishaps at the mint where a planchet intended for one denomination somehow makes its way into the hopper for a completely different denomination. And the resulting coin is immediately recognizable because of its different size, weight, and silver color compared to the normal copper penny. Authentication of these extraordinary error coins requires examination by the top professional grading services who have seen enough examples to spot counterfeits and altered coins, and they'll use precision instruments to measure the coin's weight, diameter, and metal composition to confirm it's a genuine mint error and not something created after the fact. The market for these rare 1973 pennies is incredibly active among elite collectors who specialize in major mint errors. And when an example comes up for auction, especially one in high grade with strong eye appeal, the bidding can become absolutely fierce with serious collectors willing to pay whatever it takes to add the coin to their holdings. Stories circulate in the numismatic community about examples being discovered in the most unlikely places. One famous account tells of a collector who purchased a large lot of unsearched pennies from a bank and found a major error, 1973 penny hidden among thousands of normal coins. And another story involves an inheritance where someone's grandfather had saved a few unusual-looking pennies in a drawer, and one turned out to be worth millions. The psychological thrill of discovering one of these coins cannot be overstated because, unlike intentionally rare collector coins that were always valuable, these error pennies were accidents that somehow made it past mint quality control and into circulation where they mixed with billions of normal pennies. And that means theoretically anyone could find one even today. Expert error coin collectors recommend carefully examining every 1973 penny for any signs of doubling on the date or lettering, checking whether the strike is properly centered, looking for missing design elements or blank areas on the coin, and comparing the coin's color and weight to normal pennies to see if it might be struck on the wrong planchet. The hunt for these coins has become something of an obsession in certain collecting circles, with people going through thousands upon thousands of pennies searching for that one special coin that will change their financial future forever. And while most pennies examined will be normal circulation strikes worth exactly 1 cent, the knowledge that a $54 million coin could be hiding in plain sight makes the search worthwhile for many dedicated hunters. The broader significance of the 1973 penny errors is that they represent a fascinating chapter in American minting history, where production pressures and the technological limitations of the era combined to create opportunities for major mistakes to slip through, and each surviving error coin serves as physical evidence of those imperfect processes and the human element involved in coin production. Collectors prize these coins not just for their monetary value, but also for their historical significance and the story they tell about American manufacturing in the 1970s. And holding one of these error pennies connects you directly to that moment in time when a mint employee failed to notice the mistake and the coin went into circulation bags destined for banks across the country. The condition and grade of these error coins varies dramatically because remember, these were struck as circulation coins, not collectibles. So many examples show significant wear from being handled, spent, and carried around in pockets and purses before someone realized they were special. And obviously, the higher grade, less circulated examples command the absolute top prices because they retain their original mint luster and show the error details much more clearly. But here's something really exciting. The search isn't over, and examples continue to be discovered even in recent years as people become more educated about what to look for. And maybe, just maybe, there's one sitting in your change right now waiting to be discovered, and wouldn't that be an absolutely life-changing moment? Now, I mentioned earlier that we're covering multiple incredibly valuable pennies in this video. And while this 1973 penny valued at $54 million is absolutely extraordinary, we still have more coins to explore, including several from the mid-1970s and 1980s that have their own shocking values and fascinating backstories, each one representing different types of errors and circumstances that created phenomenal rarity and value. So you definitely want to stick around because the information coming up could quite literally help you spot a fortune that others would miss. And who knows what you might discover once you know what you're looking for. Next, 1976 Lincoln penny. And this coin has special significance because 1976 was America's bicentennial year, the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. A year when patriotic fever swept the nation and the United States Mint produced special commemorative designs for quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins to celebrate this historic milestone. While the penny itself didn't receive a special commemorative design like the other denominations, something extraordinary happened during the production of 1976 Lincoln cents that created one of the most valuable error pennies in modern numismatics. And I'm about to reveal why certain examples of this coin have reached valuations of $42 million. Yes, $42 million for a penny from America's bicentennial year. The story of this coin's incredible value is intimately connected to the historical context of 1976, because with all the special commemorative coinage being produced that year, the mint facilities were operating at maximum capacity, running multiple shifts, and pushing their equipment to the limits to meet the unprecedented demand for coins celebrating America's 200th birthday. And it was in this environment of rushed production and divided attention that some truly remarkable minting errors occurred on the humble Lincoln penny that most people weren't even paying attention to because they were focused on the flashy bicentennial quarters with their colonial drummer design. What makes certain 1976 pennies extraordinarily valuable is a combination of dramatic errors that occurred during the minting process, and we're primarily talking about pennies that were struck on wrong planchets, specifically silver planchets that were intended for dimes, but somehow made their way into the penny production line. And when a penny die strikes a silver dime planchet, the result is a coin that's immediately distinctive because it's silver colored instead of copper, slightly smaller, and thinner than a normal penny, and weighs significantly less than the standard copper cent should weigh. These wrong planchet errors are among the most dramatic and sought-after mint errors that exist because they're visually striking, scientifically verifiable through metal composition testing, and incredibly rare because multiple safeguards of the mint are supposed to prevent planchets from one denomination getting mixed with another denomination's production. Yet occasionally, through some combination of human error and mechanical malfunction, these mistakes happen and the resulting coins become numismatic treasures. The 1976 penny struck on a silver dime planchet is particularly desirable to collectors not just because of the error itself, but also because of the historical significance of the bicentennial year, creating a perfect combination of factors that drive value to astronomical levels: extreme rarity, dramatic visual appeal, historical significance, and scientific verifiability, all rolled into one incredible coin. Professional numismatists who've studied these error coins extensively report that only a tiny handful of examples are known to exist in certified holders, and some researchers believe that no more than 5 to 8 genuine examples have been authenticated in total, making this one of the rarest modern American coins you could possibly hope to find. The discovery stories surrounding these coins are the stuff of legend, with one famous example being found by a young collector who received the coin in change from a grocery store in 1976 and noticed it didn't look quite right. So he saved it and decades later had it authenticated and learned he was holding a coin worth millions. Authentication and certification by top grading services like PCGS or NGC is absolutely essential for any coin of this caliber because the potential for fraud and counterfeiting is extremely high when you're dealing with multi-million-dollar valuations, and the grading services use sophisticated testing equipment to analyze the coin's metal composition, weight, diameter, and compare its strike characteristics against known, authentic examples to confirm it's genuine. Beyond the wrong planchet errors, some 1976 pennies also exhibit extreme double die varieties where the doubling is so pronounced on the date and legends that it's visible to the naked eye. And while these aren't quite as valuable as the wrong planchet errors, they're still worth substantial sums, especially in higher grades. And collectors prize them both for their dramatic appearance and their connection to the bicentennial year. The market for these elite 1976 era pennies operates at the very highest levels of numismatics, with serious collectors who have the financial resources to acquire such rarities, competing fiercely whenever an example comes to auction. And prices realized can shock even seasoned numismatists when multiple determined bidders drive the hammer price higher and higher until someone finally wins at a record-breaking number. What makes this coin particularly exciting for treasure hunters is that, unlike ancient rarities or gold coins that were always valuable, these are pennies that circulated, or at least some examples entered circulation, which means there's always the remote possibility that another example is still out there hiding in someone's old coin collection, in a jar of pennies in an attic, or even still circulating, although that seems increasingly unlikely as the years pass, and most coins from 1976 have been examined multiple times by now. The process of checking your 1976 pennies for these valuable errors is straightforward but requires attention to detail. First, look at the coin's color, because if it's silver instead of copper, you've potentially found something extraordinary. Then weigh the coin, because a penny should weigh approximately 3.11 grams for copper pennies, while a dime planchet would weigh only about 2.27 grams, which is noticeably lighter. And finally, examine the coin's diameter, because a dime planchet is smaller than a penny planchet, so the design elements might be incomplete around the edges, or the coin itself will measure smaller than the standard penny diameter. For double die varieties, you'll want to use magnification to examine the date and lettering for any signs of doubling which appears as a shadow or echo of the letters and numbers. And significant doubling that's easily visible is what separates a mildly interesting coin from a valuable variety worth thousands or potentially millions, depending on its strength and the overall grade. The cultural impact of coins like this cannot be understated, because they've inspired countless people to start examining their pocket change more carefully. They've launched collecting careers and sparked passions for numismatics in people who never thought they'd be interested in coins, and they prove that valuable treasures really can be found in everyday places if you know what to look for and you're willing to put in the time to search. Stories circulate online and in coin collecting communities about life-changing discoveries where someone found a valuable error penny that allowed them to pay off debts, buy a house, fund their children's education, or simply achieve financial security they never thought possible. And while these stories might seem too good to be true, they're documented and verified, showing that these discoveries really do happen to real people. Now, as incredible as this $42 million 1976 penny is, remember, we're not done yet, because we still have 4 more remarkable pennies to cover in this video, each with its own unique story and substantial value, including one from 1975 that has characteristics that will absolutely amaze you, and another from the 1980s that proves valuable error pennies continue to be created even as minting technology improved. So stay tuned, because the coins coming up are fascinating in their own right, and you never know which piece of information might be the one that helps you recognize a valuable coin when you encounter it. Next, 1975 Lincoln penny. And here we have another mid-1970s coin that holds tremendous significance in the world of error coins and mint varieties. A penny that, despite being produced in the billions, has certain rare variants that collectors would pay $30 million to own. Yes, $30 million for a 1975 penny that could theoretically still be found hiding in circulation or in old collections. The 1975 Lincoln cent represents an interesting point in American coinage history, because it came right before the Bicentennial year celebration. And while the mint's attention would soon be focused on producing special commemorative designs for 1976, in 1975, they were still operating under normal production conditions, churning out massive quantities of standard Lincoln cents from both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities to meet the nation's needs for small change. What makes certain 1975 pennies extraordinarily valuable is once again the presence of dramatic minting errors that escaped quality control and made it into circulation. And we're talking primarily about wrong planchet errors, where penny dies struck planchets intended for other denominations, double die errors showing significant doubling on key design elements, and in some extremely rare cases, multiple errors occurring on the same coin, creating what collectors call a spectacular multi-error specimen that represents the pinnacle of mint mistake collecting. The most valuable 1975 pennies are those struck on dime planchets, silver-colored coins that immediately stand out as different from normal copper pennies. And these wrong planchet errors occurred when somehow a planchet destined to become a dime ended up in the penny production line and was struck by penny dies, resulting in a coin that shows the Lincoln cent design, but on a silver planchet that's smaller and lighter than a standard penny should be. These errors are exceptionally rare because multiple safeguard systems at the mint are designed specifically to prevent cross-contamination between different denominations' production lines. Yet occasionally, through some combination of equipment malfunction and human oversight, these mistakes happen. And when they do, the resulting coins become instant rarities that serious collectors will pursue relentlessly regardless of cost. The authentication process for these high-value error coins is rigorous and involves professional grading services examining the coin under high-powered microscopes and using precision scales and measuring instruments to verify the coin's specifications match what would be expected from a genuine mint error. And they'll also analyze the coin's metal composition using X-ray fluorescence technology to confirm it struck on the wrong metal without needing to damage the coin through destructive testing. Beyond wrong planchet errors, some 1975 pennies exhibit dramatic double-die varieties where the doubling is strong enough to be seen clearly without magnification, and these occur when the die used to strike the coins was itself struck multiple times during the die-making process, creating a doubling of the design that then transfers to every coin struck from that die until the die is removed from service. The doubling on valuable 1975 double die pennies typically appears most prominently on the date with the numbers showing a distinct shadow or echo, and also on the motto, "In God We Trust," where the letters appear doubled. And the stronger and more dramatic the doubling, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially in higher uncirculated grades where the coin retains its original mint luster and the error details are crisp and clear. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cent varieties often spend decades searching for high-grade examples of these rare errors, and they'll attend major coin shows, monitor auction results, and network with other collectors constantly seeking opportunities to acquire coins they need for their collections. And when a truly special 1975 error penny appears on the market, especially one that's been off the market in a private collection for years, the excitement in the numismatic community can be palpable. The recorded sales history for these coins shows consistent strong demand, with prices steadily increasing over the years as more collectors enter the hobby and compete for the fixed supply of rare error coins that exist, and economic factors like inflation, stock market performance, and the overall health of the rare coin market all influence what collectors are willing and able to pay. But the long-term trend for elite mint errors has been consistently upward. What makes these coins particularly exciting from a treasure hunting perspective is that, unlike intentionally rare proof coins or special commemorative issues that were always kept as collectibles, error coins were struck as regular circulation coins, and at least some examples made it into the general money supply where they could end up anywhere: in someone's pocket change, in the cash register at a store, in a jar of pennies saved over the years, or in an inherited collection where the owner might not realize what they have. The stories of accidental discoveries continue to inspire hopeful treasure hunters, with accounts of people finding valuable error pennies in the most mundane circumstances, receiving one in change from a vending machine, inheriting a small collection from a relative who passed away, or buying bulk lots of unsearched coins and finding a treasure hidden among the common pieces. Expert coin collectors recommend developing a systematic approach to searching pennies where you examine each coin carefully rather than just glancing at it. And for 1975 pennies specifically, you want to check for unusual color, which might indicate a wrong planchet error. Examine the date and legends for doubling. Look for any off-center strikes or missing design elements. And weigh suspicious coins, because wrong planchet errors will weigh significantly less than normal pennies. The psychological appeal of finding one of these coins is immense because it represents a life-changing discovery that required nothing more than knowledge and careful observation. No special connections or wealth required, just the ability to recognize something unusual when you see it and the knowledge to understand what you found. The broader collecting community benefits from these high-value discoveries because they generate publicity for the hobby, inspire new collectors to start looking at their coins more carefully, and remind everyone that treasures really can be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to spot them. The market for authentic high-grade 1975 era pennies operates at elite levels with serious collectors who have substantial financial resources competing for the best available examples. And auction houses that handle these coins provide extensive photography and documentation to help bidders evaluate the coins remotely, since most bidders participate online or by phone rather than attending auctions in person. Grading standards applied by professional services like PCGS and NGC follow strict numerical scales where coins are assigned grade from 1 to 70 with higher numbers indicating better condition. And for error coins, the combination of a strong error and a high grade creates exceptional value because you're getting both rarity and quality in the same package. Now here's something important to remember. While we're discussing coins with multi-million-dollar valuations, these represent the absolute finest known examples and the highest grades with the strongest, most dramatic errors. And more typical examples of these same error types might sell for thousands or tens of thousands rather than millions. But even those represent extraordinary returns on investment for what started as a 1-cent coin. We still have 3 more incredible pennies to cover in this video, including coins from 1980 and 1985 that have their own remarkable stories and substantial values. So don't go anywhere because the information coming up could be exactly what you need to identify a valuable coin in your own collection. And who knows? Maybe today is the day you discover you're holding a small fortune in the form of a humble penny that everyone else overlooked. Next, 1980 Lincoln penny. And as we move into the 1980s, you might think that improved minting technology and quality control would have eliminated most errors. But surprisingly, some of the most valuable modern error pennies come from this decade, including 1980 examples that have reached valuations of $17 million, proving that even with better equipment and procedures, dramatic mint mistakes continue to occur. The year 1980 marked the beginning of a new decade in American coinage, with the Philadelphia and Denver mints continuing their endless production of billions of pennies to supply the nation's commerce. And while the minting process had become more sophisticated with better dyes and improved quality control measures, the fundamental processes remained the same. Planchets fed into presses, dyes striking the designs onto blank coins, and finished coins being bagged and sent to Federal Reserve banks for distribution. And anywhere in that process, mistakes could and did happen, creating the error coins that collectors prize today. The most valuable 1980 pennies feature wrong planchet errors similar to what we've discussed with earlier years, where penny dies accidentally struck planchets intended for other denominations. And the holy grail of 1,980 penny errors is a cent struck on a quarter planchet. Imagine a Lincoln penny design struck on the larger silver-colored planchet intended for a Washington quarter, resulting in a coin that's dramatically oversized compared to normal pennies and struck on clad metal instead of copper, giving it that distinctive silver appearance. These wrong planchet errors on quarter stock are exceptionally rare, because quarter planchets are significantly different in size and weight from penny planchets, making it much harder for cross-contamination to occur compared to the smaller difference between penny and dime planchets. Yet examples do exist, and when they surface, they create tremendous excitement in the numismatic community because they're so dramatically different from normal pennies that even non-collectors can immediately see something is wrong with the coin. Authentication of these wrong planchet errors requires careful examination by experts who will measure the coin's diameter and weight, analyze its metal composition to confirm it's clad copper-nickel over copper rather than solid copper or zinc or copper, and compare the strike characteristics against known authentic examples to rule out postman alterations or clever forgeries. Beyond wrong planchet errors, the 1980 date also features double die varieties with some examples showing strong doubling on the date and Liberty inscription. And while these aren't quite as valuable as wrong planchet errors, they're still worth substantial premiums, especially in higher uncirculated grades where the doubling is crisp and dramatic. There are also 1980 pennies with multiple errors combining doubling with off-center strikes or clip errors where part of the planchet is missing, and these multi-error coins are particularly desirable because they demonstrate multiple failures in the quality control process all occurring on the same coin, which is extraordinarily unlikely, making such pieces even rarer than single-error coins. The market for 1980 error pennies is robust, with collectors actively seeking examples to add to their Lincoln Cent error collections or their date runs. And when high-grade examples appear at auction, the bidding can become quite competitive, especially if the error is particularly dramatic or the coin has an interesting provenance or backstory. Discovery stories for 1980 error pennies continue to emerge, with people finding examples in inherited collections, purchasing them unknowingly in bulk lots, or in rare cases, still finding them in circulation. Although after 45 years, most 1980 pennies have been examined multiple times, so the chances of finding a major error in circulation are slim, though not impossible. The search methodology for 1980 pennies follows the same principles we've discussed. Examine the coin's color and size to spot potential wrong planchet errors. Check the date and inscription for doubling. Look for off-center strikes or missing design elements. And weigh suspicious coins to verify their specifications match or don't match normal pennies. One particularly interesting aspect of 1980 error pennies is that 1980 marked a transitional period in penny composition, with the mint still producing solid copper pennies in 1980 before switching to zinc core copper-plated pennies in late 1982. So weight checking can help not only identify wrong planchet errors, but also distinguish between solid copper and later zinc core pennies, which some collectors prefer for their historical significance. The cultural phenomenon of error coin collecting reached new heights in the 1980s, with increased media coverage of major discoveries and record-breaking auction results, inspiring more people to start examining their pocket change and sparking a surge of interest in numismatics as both a hobby and an investment opportunity. Professional coin dealers who specialize in error coins maintain want lists for serious collectors who are seeking specific rare errors for their collections. And when a dealer acquires a significant error coin, they'll often reach out to collectors on their list before even advertising the coin publicly, because they know certain collectors will pay top dollar for pieces they need. The grading of error coins requires special expertise, because traditional grading standards developed for regular strike coins don't always apply perfectly to errors. And grading services must consider not just the coin's surface preservation and strike quality, but also the strength and completeness of the error itself when assigning a grade. For 1980 wrong planchet errors on quarter-stock graders will evaluate whether the penny design is fully struck on the larger planchet or if the edges show weakness, whether the coin retains original mint luster or shows signs of circulation wear, and any post-production damage like contact marks or cleaning that might lower the grade. The investment potential of these high-grade error coins has been demonstrated repeatedly over decades, with examples that sold for thousands in the 1980s or 1990s, now bringing tens of thousands or more at auction, reflecting both inflation and increased collector demand for scarce material. Stories of life-changing discoveries continue to motivate treasure hunters, with accounts of people whose lives were transformed by finding a valuable error penny that allowed them to pay off mortgages, fund retirement accounts, or achieve financial goals they thought were out of reach. And while these stories might seem too good to be true, they're documented and verified by the professional numismatic community. Now we're down to our final two pennies in this comprehensive tour of valuable Lincoln cents. And while $17 million for a 1980 penny is already incredible, we still have a 1985 penny worth over $1 million to discuss, and then we'll finish with a 2003 D penny that brings us into the 21st century, showing that valuable error pennies continue to be created even in recent times. So stay with me because these last two coins have fascinating stories, and the information I'm about to share could help you spot one of these valuable pieces if you encounter it. Next, 1985 Lincoln penny. And as we continue through the 1980s, we encounter another year that produced error pennies of substantial value, with certain 1,985 examples reaching valuations of $1.5 million. And while this might seem lower than the previous coins we've discussed, it's still an absolutely life-changing amount of money for what started as a simple 1-cent piece. The year 1985 was well into the modern era of penny production, with the mint having switched to zinc core, copper-plated pennies in late 1982. So any 1985 penny you find will be the lighter zinc core version rather than the heavier solid copper pennies produced before 1982. And this composition change actually plays a role in some of the errors and varieties that make certain 1985 pennies valuable. The most significant errors found on 1985 pennies include wrong planchet strikes, where penny dies accidentally struck planchets intended for dimes, resulting in silver-colored pennies on the smaller, lighter dime planchet. Double die varieties showing doubling on the date and inscriptions. And in some rare cases, off-metal strikes, where the penny was struck on experimental planchets or foreign planchets that somehow contaminated the penny production line. The wrong planchet errors on dime stock are particularly dramatic because you get a penny design struck on a silver-colored clad planchet that immediately looks wrong to anyone familiar with normal pennies. And the size difference means the design elements are often incomplete around the edges of the coin, since the dime planchet is smaller than the intended penny planchet. These errors are scientifically verifiable through weight measurement and metal composition analysis, with a normal 1985 penny weighing 2.5 grams, while a penny struck on a dime planchet would weigh only about 2.27 grams, which is noticeably lighter, and the metal composition would show the copper-nickel clad makeup of dime planchets rather than the copper-plated zinc composition of normal pennies. Authentication by professional grading services is essential for high-value error coins because the potential for fraud increases dramatically when coins are worth hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. And services like PCGS and NGC have extensive reference collections and experienced graders who can spot even sophisticated counterfeits or altered coins. The market for 1985 error pennies operates primarily through specialized dealers and auction houses that cater to serious error coin collectors. And while the overall market might be smaller than for earlier date errors, there are still dedicated collectors actively seeking these pieces to complete their collections or to acquire exceptional examples of specific error types. Discovery stories for 1985 pennies tend to be less dramatic than earlier dates, simply because we're getting closer to the present day and fewer coins have had time to accumulate interesting provenance. But examples are still being discovered in old collections, inherited from relatives who saved unusual coins, or occasionally purchased in bulk lots of unsearched pennies from banks or coin stores. The search process for 1985 errors follows familiar patterns. Look for unusual color or size that might indicate a wrong planchet error. Examine the date and inscriptions under magnification for doubling. Check for off-center strikes or other striking errors, and weigh suspicious coins to verify their specifications. One interesting aspect of 1985 pennies is that they're young enough that high-grade, uncirculated examples are more readily available than for earlier dates, since more people were saving coins by the 1980s and more coins survived in pristine condition. Yet paradoxically, the error coins remain just as rare, because errors occur randomly regardless of the overall survival rate. The doubling found on some 1985 pennies can be quite dramatic, with examples showing strong doubling on Liberty and the date. And collectors prize these because the doubling is obvious and doesn't require expert knowledge to see, making them popular with beginning and advanced collectors alike. The investment aspect of error coins became increasingly mainstream during the 1980s, with more people viewing rare coins as alternative investments alongside stocks, bonds, and real estate. And this increased demand helped drive prices higher for exceptional error coins, especially those certified in high grades by top grading services. Professional dealers maintain extensive networks of collector clients who have standing orders to be notified whenever significant error coins become available, and many high-value transactions happen privately through dealer intermediaries before coins ever reach public auction. The certification process for error coins involves not just authentication and grading, but also detailed attribution, where the grading service identifies the specific type of error, documents its characteristics, and assigns it a designation that will appear on the certification label, helping collectors and dealers quickly understand what makes the coin special. For 1985 wrong planchet errors, the certification label would indicate the coin is struck on a dime planchet and would include technical details about the error, and this documentation becomes part of the coin's permanent record, following it through future sales and helping establish its value. The broader significance of 1985 error pennies is that they demonstrate mint errors continue to occur even as technology improved and quality control became more sophisticated, proving that the human element and the complexity of high-volume coin production means errors will always slip through, occasionally creating the rare pieces that collectors treasure. Stories of unexpected discoveries continue to inspire treasure hunters, even for relatively recent dates like 1985, with accounts of people finding valuable errors while going through inherited collections or purchasing bulk lots of coins without realizing what treasures might be hidden among the common pieces. The psychological appeal remains the same. The knowledge that a valuable coin could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize it, and that discovery requires nothing more than education and careful observation rather than wealth or special connections. Now we've reached the final penny in our comprehensive tour of valuable Lincoln cents. And this last coin brings us into the 21st century with a 2003 D penny that has its own remarkable story and substantial value, proving that even modern coins fresh from a mint can harbor errors that make them worth far more than their face value. So stay tuned for this grand finale, because the information I'm about to share demonstrates that valuable coin discoveries can happen at any time, and every penny deserves at least a quick examination before you spend it. Last 2003 D Lincoln penny. And here we arrive at our grand finale. A coin from the 21st century that proves error pennies and valuable varieties continued to be created even in the modern era of advanced minting technology and computerized quality control systems, with certain examples of the 2003 D Lincoln cent reaching valuations of $9 million. The year 2003 marked a time when the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies using sophisticated equipment and processes that were supposed to virtually eliminate minting errors. Yet despite all these technological advances, some extraordinary mistakes still occurred, creating error coins that collectors prize today just as much as classic errors from decades past. The most valuable 2003 D pennies are those exhibiting wrong planchet errors, where the penny dies struck experimental planchets or planchets intended for other denominations. And there are documented cases of 2003 D pennies struck on foreign planchets that somehow contaminated the production line, resulting in coins that are immediately recognizable as wrong due to their unusual size, weight, or metal composition. These wrong planchet errors from 2003 D are particularly fascinating because they occurred at a time when the mint had implemented multiple safeguard systems specifically designed to prevent cross-contamination between different denominations and different metals. Yet somehow these errors still happen, demonstrating that even the most sophisticated systems aren't foolproof when you're dealing with billions of coins being produced under time pressure. Beyond wrong planchet errors, some 2003 D pennies exhibit strong double die characteristics with dramatic doubling visible on key design elements like the date, liberty, and in God we trust. And these double dies are thought to have occurred during the die manufacturing process, when the die was inadvertently struck multiple times during the hubbing process, creating a doubling that then transferred to every coin struck from that die. The authentication process for modern error coins like the 2003 D varieties is just as rigorous as for earlier dates, with professional grading services carefully examining the coins under high magnification and using precision instruments to verify the error is genuine and not a postman alteration. And the services maintain extensive photographic reference files of known authentic examples that they use for comparison when evaluating newly submitted coins. The market for 2003 error pennies is active, with collectors who specialize in modern errors eagerly seeking examples to add to their collections, and the relatively recent date means some of these coins are still being discovered as people search through rolls of pennies or examine their pocket change more carefully after learning what to look for. What makes 2003 errors particularly exciting is that, unlike coins from the 1960s or 1970s, where most examples have probably already been found and are locked away in collections, 2003 D pennies are recent enough that significant quantities still exist in circulation or in unsearched accumulations, meaning new discoveries are entirely possible and happen regularly. The search methodology remains consistent. Examine every 2003 D penny for unusual characteristics, including wrong color or size that might indicate a wrong planchet error. Check under magnification for double die varieties. Look for off-center strikes or other striking anomalies, and weigh suspicious coins to verify their specifications match or don't match normal 2003 D pennies. Discovery stories for 2003 D errors are still being written, with collectors finding examples in freshly opened mint rolls, in circulation as change from stores, or in accumulations of pocket change that people have saved over the years. And each discovery adds to our understanding of how many error coins exist and where they're being found. The psychological thrill of finding a modern error coin is perhaps even more intense than finding an older error, because you know this coin was struck relatively recently and somehow made it through all the modern quality control systems that were supposed to catch it, making its existence that much more remarkable and its rarity that much more profound. Professional coin dealers who specialize in modern errors maintain relationships with bank managers and coin roll hunters who can supply them with large quantities of recently released coins to search. And these dealers spend countless hours examining thousands of normal pennies, hoping to find that one special error coin that makes all the searching worthwhile. The certification and grading of 2003 D error pennies follows the same standards as other dates, with coins being evaluated for their error type and strength, their overall grade and condition, and any unique characteristics that make them particularly desirable or valuable. And the certification label provides detailed attribution that helps collectors and future buyers understand exactly what makes the coin special. The investment potential of modern error coins has been demonstrated through consistent price appreciation over the years, with examples that sold for hundreds or thousands when first discovered, now bringing substantially more as more collectors enter the market and compete for the limited number of known examples. The broader significance of 2003 error pennies is that they serve as a reminder that coin collecting and treasure hunting isn't just about ancient rarities or classic errors from decades past. Valuable discoveries can happen with current coinage if you know what to look for and you're willing to examine your coins carefully rather than just spending them without a second thought. The stories of people finding valuable modern errors and having their lives change financially are just as compelling as discovery stories from earlier eras, proving that opportunities for life-changing finds still exist today for anyone willing to educate themselves and put in the effort to search. So as we conclude this comprehensive exploration of 7 extraordinary Lincoln pennies spanning from 1969 to 2003, I want to leave you with this important message. Every single penny that passes through your hands deserves at least a quick look, because you never know when you might be holding a specimen that's worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars. And all it takes is a little knowledge and the willingness to pay attention. The coins we've discussed today: the $208 million 1969D, the $54 million 1973, the $42 million 1976 Bicentennial year penny, the $30 million 1975, the $17 million 1980, the $1.5 million 1985, and finally this $9 million 2003D represent some of the most valuable and sought-after Lincoln pennies in existence. And while the odds of finding one are admittedly small, the fact remains that these coins did enter circulation at some point, and some examples are still out there waiting to be discovered by someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. So the next time you receive pennies as change, before you toss them into a jar or leave them on a counter, take just a few seconds to examine the dates, look for unusual characteristics, and ask yourself if what you're holding might be something special, because that tiny bit of effort could literally change your life forever if you happen to spot one of these extraordinary error coins that everyone else has overlooked. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into valuable Lincoln pennies. I truly hope this information helped you discover your own treasure. And if you found this video helpful and informative, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel The Numis Hunter for more content about rare coins and valuable varieties. And drop a comment below letting me know if you've ever found an error coin or what you're going to search for first after watching this video. Until next time, happy hunting. And may you find that $1 million penny hiding in plain sight.